Hey everybody, how you doing? I received an email 14 hours ago. I'm late getting to it, and I understand it's been published at least once, at least part of the press release. But this is big news nonetheless. It points to a lawsuit filed by, and I'm going to read the title: Georgia voters challenge Marjorie Taylor Greene's candidacy for re-election under 14th Amendment's insurrectionist disqualifications clause. Complaint argues Representative Greene's involvement in support of the January 6th insurrection violated her oath of office and makes her ineligible for re-election. And goes the press release basically says that a group of Georgia voters filed a legal challenge today to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's candidacy for re-election in 2022. The challenge, filed with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, alleges that Greene is constitutionally disqualified from public office under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution on the grounds that she helped facilitate the January 6, 2021 insurrection. The voters are represented by Free Speech for People, a nonpartisan, nonprofit legal advocacy organization with constitutional law expertise, which is serving as co-lead counsel in the matter, along with New York-based Emery, Celli, Brinckerhoff, Abady, Ward, and Maazel, LLP. And then Bryan Sells is a locally based attorney in Atlanta who specializes in voting rights and election law, who's involved as well. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which is called the Insurrectionist Disqualification Clause, provides no person should be a senator or representative in Congress who, having previously taken an oath as member of Congress to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. The purpose of the Insurrectionist Disqualification Clause, the press release reads, passed in the wake of the Civil War, is not to punish the oath breaker, but rather to protect the country. No criminal conviction or prior adjudication is required under the Insurrectionist Disqualification Clause, although Greene would be able to seek judicial review of an adverse decision. Anyone seeking to run for public office in Georgia shall meet the constitutional and statutory qualifications for the office being sought, according to how the law reads. And it continues that under Georgia's candidacy challenge statute, once a challenge is filed, the Secretary of State must request a hearing before an administrative law judge of the Office of State Administrative Hearings to determine whether the candidate is qualified for office. The burden of proof then shifts to the candidate, who must, quote, affirmatively establish that eligibility for office. That means that Marjorie Taylor Greene, in the case of this lawsuit, has to basically say, hey, look, that I'm eligible, and here's why. The challengers intend to issue subpoenas to Greene and take her deposition under oath, something that the United States House January 6th Select Committee has not yet done. As set forth in the complaint, the publicly available evidence establishes that Greene helped facilitate the insurrection before, during, and after January 6, 2021. Specifically, the evidence shows that she either helped to plan the attack on January 6th or alternatively helped to plan the pre-attack demonstration and or march on the Capitol with knowledge that it was substantially likely to lead in the attack and otherwise voluntarily aided the insurrection. Some of this evidence was brought to the attention of the public in an October report by Rolling Stone, citing reports from organizers of the pre-attack demonstration. In the weeks leading up to January 6th, it goes on to read, Greene publicly stated that violence might be necessary to keep Trump in power. calling the day our 1776 moment, a code word used by violent extremists to refer to an attack on government buildings, and arguing you can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants, and allow him to become our president because he did not win the election, it reads. He's guilty of treason, they claim. It's a crime punishable by death, and what treason is. Nancy Pelosi is guilty of treason, they have said. Shortly after Marjorie Taylor Greene released that video, insurrectionists attacked the U.S. Capitol, seeking to block a peaceful transfer of power and calling for the death of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other officials. This is talking about what Marjorie Taylor Greene ignited, they allege. Since the insurrection, Representative Greene has attempted to defend the violence on January 6th as justified by the Declaration of Independence, while calling convicted participants in the insurrection political prisoners of war, and falsely claiming that the violence at the Capitol was perpetuated by Antifa, infiltrators, or the FBI. Quote, "It's rare for any conspirator, let alone a member of Congress, to publicly admit that the goals of the actions are preventing a peaceful transfer of power and the death of the president-elect and Speaker of the House." But that's exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene did, said Ron Fain, legal director for Free Speech for People. The Constitution disqualifies from public office any elected officials who aided the insurrection, and we look forward to asking Representative Greene about her involvement under oath. I believe in democracy. When I served in the Army, I did take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, said Michael Raspberry, one of the 5 voters in Georgia's 14th congressional district who brought this legal challenge, this lawsuit. Everything I've read says Representative Greene was involved in the January 6th insurrection that was trying to override everything I believe in, our Constitution, how we run elections, and how our government is set up. She should not be on the ballot. Voters in North Carolina, represented by Free Speech for People and North Carolina lawyers, filed a similar challenge against Representative Madison Cawthorn based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. On March 4th, 2022, a federal district court judge in North Carolina, appointed by Donald Trump, issued an injunction blocking the North Carolina State Board of Elections from hearing the challenge on the grounds that an 1872 law, which provided amnesty for ex-Confederates, also applied to Cawthorn. The voters have filed an expedited appeal with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, and on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2022, an appellate court issued an order retaining jurisdiction of the appeal and remanding the matter to the district court to rule in the first instance on the voters' relied motion to intervene. In other words, basically they won their attempt to continue blocking Cawthorn's election attempts. Then it goes on to read that while state election authorities cannot impose additional qualifications upon federal candidates, they can, as confirmed by then Judge, now Justice Neil Gorsuch, exclude candidates from the ballot who do not meet the qualifications established by the Constitution itself. Free Speech for People and our resolution are co-leading a national campaign to ensure that election officials across the country follow the mandate of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment and bar elected officials who engaged in the insurrection, including former President Donald Trump, from appearing on any future ballot. More information on their campaign is available at www.14.3 and the number 3.org. That's www, the number 14, point the word and then number 3.org. And they have the challenge of the lawsuit here. So that's the skinny regarding this, what threatens to be a gigantic roadblock to Marjorie Taylor Greene's bid for re-election. I think at the end of the day, what Representative Greene will be judged on is the degree she paid attention to kitchen table subjects in her district. Was she able to get money to people who needed the most? Jobs, resources. You can't run an office of Congress by stoking the flames of racism and division. Left-right politics that divides people has nothing to do with getting people who need, say, business assistance to them as quickly as possible. Remember, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So, by my estimation, Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't done that, and I think she's made herself vulnerable. And she's allowed herself to be basically framed as a kind of almost clownish sideshow. And if anything, while it could definitely gin up her base of supporters, I'm not certain it's enough to get her re-election. That said, the degree to which I'm wrong depends on the degree to which she was there to help people when they really needed the help and not just gave them rhetoric. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark OklaNewsNow.com.